MMA Buzz.
Hello and welcome to MMA Buzz, the East Coast MMA chat. We are three friends getting together for some beers to chat about MMA, upcoming cards, and industry news. We're coming to you pre-recorded from our Fredericton studio apartment. I am your host, Rodney Mann. That's Rodney Mann on Instagram. My right-hand man today,
Trevor Grever Lutz, Grever on Instagram.
And rounding out the panel, we have
Nick Brown, NHBrown44 on Instagram and Twitter.
All right. Collectively, we are MMA Buzz Radio. You can find us on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. That's MMA Buzz Radio. We want to hear from you. Let us know how we're doing. This is episode 9 of The Buzz. If you're new to The Buzz, we... like I mentioned, we like to get together over a few craft brews, usually local beers, and chat about what happened. And boys, we have a lot to talk about given this weekend's events. But before we get into it, let's chat about what we have to drink. I'll start. I've got a beer that is making its first appearance on the show. From a brewery called Petit Soul, which is in New Brunswick in the North Shore. They are so North Shore that they've got French First on their labels. I've got a few of them here. Actually, they're little stubby bottles, 341 milliliters. Starting off with La Kedgwick. It's a Pilsner, and I gotta say, after a few sips, it's treating me pretty well. It's lightly hopped, it's a European-style lager, and I have been drinking a Pilsner lately from Ontario, actually from Toronto, called Steam Whistle, known for being one of the best Pilsners, I guess, in Ontario. Pretty great little spot. And I have to say, this Pilsner stacks up pretty well with it, and looking forward to finishing this off and maybe transitioning off to one of the other stubbies I bought, also from Petit Soul. Nick, what do you got today?
I'm drinking a Hopbot IPA from Hop City Brewing out of St. John, New Brunswick. It's been one of my go-to beers for quite a while.
You do love it.
I do love it. It's a pretty hoppy IPA, pretty bitter, so it's what I like.
Yeah,
well, yeah, that too.
And what do you have, Trevor?
I got, trying for the first time, I got the Red Rover Fire Cider. It's a cider, strong cider, based out of Fredericton, New Brunswick. It's actually a new addition to Fredericton here. It's very tasty. I can already tell from just a little bit I've drank out of my Mortal Kombat cup here that I'm going to be feeling this after maybe even halfway through the podcast, so bear with me if I stumble in my words a little.
You can't see the bottle, but it is basically the size of a wine bottle.
Yeah, it's huge. And I love the saying here. It says, naturally better, New Brunswick.
Definitely better than being this place. Take a hint.
Get a better saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, it's really great. As I mentioned, all of the breweries that are coming up here in New Brunswick and surrounding area. And, you know, Hop City, yeah, it's owned by a local company, but it is actually a craft beer out of Ontario. So just really cool to see craft beer from across Canada making its way across Canada.
Yes, yeah. All over the place, yeah.
Really looking forward to seeing what Petit Soul can do. My family's from northern New Brunswick, so I'm a little bit biased perhaps, but, you know, anything Miramichi and higher up, they know what a winter is, and they know how to put her back in the winter, so I'd say this is definitely a perfect winter beverage.
They've got a good IPA too.
Mm-hmm. I do have that too. The one with the sister.
Yeah,
Sister
Catherine.
Yeah, it's about a nun that everybody hated, and she was so bitter. So the beer itself is quite bitter. It's pretty good. I also have a Louis the 17th or something. I don't know my Roman numerals. Apparently, yeah, I think it is. Yeah, 17. This is one I'll be drinking later. It's an amber, 5.5, same size, also from Edmundston. You might hear a beer open in the middle of the show. That's me, but they are half the size of a regular beer, so it is what it is.
The same size as a regular.
It's kind of like the size of like a red stripe is how I
Yes,
describe
yeah,
it,
they do. They're like little stubbies. Yeah, it's cool to see those making the return. I always wondered what happened to that bottle. My dad always had them like around his shed, and I thought, what the hell is that? It must be like a relic or something, but apparently they used to sell them in that, yeah. Kind of wish I could get my hands on all those things back when Alpine was a microbrewery.
Actually founded Alpine Stubby a couple years ago.
Yeah, I bet they're probably still in my dad's shed. I should hit him up for him. We can have some props for the set. Because, as we've been mentioning, we are testing out video capabilities here for getting this podcast into a video format. We're just finding our footing and getting angles and making sure we can bring you a quality product. So stay tuned to MMA Buzz Radio, because soon you'll be watching us bring this news to you. But guys...
See our beautiful faces.
Yes, our beautiful faces. Trevor, freshly shaved.
Yeah,
y'all are missing out on his beard, but he'll probably grow it back. It'll be funny. We can watch it back and fast forward and just watch you grow and shave, grow and shave, grow and shave.
Tends to happen.
Fubar style. Alright guys, let's jump into the action. MMA this weekend, we had not as many cards as the last weekend, thank God, but quality, I guess you could say, was on point compared to last week, just given the fiasco from Bellator. Yeah. But even still, lots of decisions on either Bellator and UFC. I'm not going to lament them. There were still some great fights that went to a decision. But let's just jump into probably the most talked about decision coming out of this weekend. The main event of UFC Fight Night 84, which came to us on Fight Pass, not without difficulties, I must mention. But yes, Silva versus Bisping. Bisping coming away with a unanimous decision over Silva after a very interesting fight. Just want to mention, I did predict Bisping to win.
That you did, yeah.
Did not see it happening this way. It was, I really thought Bisping, and the way he came out, I thought he had the game plan to actually make my prediction come true. Just the way he was moving his head, bringing interesting angles to Silva, and really laying it on him there at the end of the first. A very forward game plan from Bisping. He had great head movement, like I said, early aggression. Silva, of course, as he usually does, looking for the counter strike, establishing the classic Silva, I call it, where he kind of gets his distance, finds his rhythm, and then throws out always looking for the finish, throws out a real interesting series of blows, or, tries to go for something spectacular. Silva, of course, dodging, like classic Silva. Bisping was really throwing a lot at him. And the first two rounds I had going to Bisping, but of course the third round definitely packed with controversy. When Bisping was getting lit up by Silva. It kind of looked like Bisping spit his mouth guard out, but whatever happened in the tussle, he lost his mouth guard, and of course Herb Dean sauntering over to pick it up, taking his time, and in that time Silva was it kind of looked like he was going to get it for him, and I think that's what made Bisping sort of think, okay, I'm going to get this back, and they're not looking at the clock, so long story short, he didn't get it back, and while he was motioning to get it back, Silva was really pouring on the assault and landed a vicious flying knee.
Amazing one.
Right at the buzzer, folding Bisping against the cage, looking dazed. Of course, Silva thinks he wins, jumps up onto the cage and celebrates, and what we know now was, a big misunderstanding, because the round was over and Herb Dean didn't call the fight. It takes about 90 seconds to get them all to get everything sorted out between rounds and get him on his bench and everything. And you can see at the beginning of the fourth, Bisping is just a walking zombie. He looks like he is freshly wrung, and without a doubt he was. That knee was just spectacular and right on the button.
And it cut him too on top of that. Like, it just busted him open. Yeah,
so moving into that fourth round, Dan Hardy comments on the adrenaline dump for Silva, having just scored a knockout, or walk-out knockout. Walk-away knockout, I guess you could say. Walk-off knockout, that's the word I'm looking for. And, celebrating and everything, feeling like his job here is done, and then he has to fight another round, which ended up being 2 more rounds. Of course, I have 4 and 5 going to Silva, and really I think it all comes down to the third, where I really do think Bisping showed enough to win the round because of his constant forward motion and the way that Silva was waiting to pick his shots, but it is definitely up for debate. And, it just kind of goes to show you how confusing this match is to see it go that way when every highlight they're showing during Bisping's thank you speech is an Anderson Silva highlight. So I really think the production team had Anderson winning and then didn't have enough time to backpedal to show Bisping highlights, which really would have just been, death by 1,000 cuts. So guys, huge fight, huge implications for either man. I think, Silva mentioned it at the end of the fight. He doesn't agree with the decision. Of course, Bisping, I think, is even a little bit flabbergasted that he got the nod, and the fact that it was unanimous even adds to the suspicion around the fight. Some people on Twitter saying that that Silva's saying the commission is in cahoots with the judges here in the UK. Just the fact that he thought he won unanimously. Guys, I'd like to get your take on this fight. I feel like I've been, summing it up, but just a nuts show. Grev, jump on in. Let us know what you think.
Well, comes to mind right away is protect yourself at all times, no matter what's going on. If you're talking to the referee, if he says keep fighting, you can actually see, Herdine wants him to keep fighting. Don't look away. Like, you got to protect yourself at all times, or the other fighter will take advantage of the situation, because why not?
Yeah.
You're in a fight, you're in that time limit, it's not the end of the round. Go until the end. And he probably could see the time limit himself. Like, I can imagine the time shown how much is left is pretty huge for the fighters to see. I believe I had it actually right away. I said I had it 3-4-5 Silva unanimous, but to our surprise, it didn't go that way. Bisping did look the best he's ever has against Tate, but he also matchup wise, it's definitely a hard battle for Anderson, even when he was in his prime, just because the style Bisping brings. Really aggressive, throws a lot of strikes, not necessarily knockout punches, but he did get Silva stunned at the end of the first, which had my jaw on the floor. Honestly, Silva's going to be back, I think, for a few more fights. He did look really fast for his, I believe he's 41 now. Didn't look like he lost much other than his chin might be a little shot. Bisping from here on, I believe he might fight. I don't know about the Rockhold. Rockhold just completely slaughtered him last time, but I don't know where he goes from here. But big win for him. Kudos to him. So
yeah, it's true. Nick, were you surprised by the fighter? Do you think Silva was robbed? Do you think Bisping got home court advantage?
It was pretty close. I think Silva had it. I think most people seem to think Silva had it. Wasn't really... He won the 5th round for sure, but I wasn't impressed by the way he was doing it. He didn't seem like he wanted to finish the fight, and I feel like he should have been trying to finish.
Yeah.
So
that was
it's almost a fitting punishment that he lost.
Could be that adrenaline dump with Rodney, though.
It could be.
Yeah, I mean...
But I mean, in the 4th, he was still going for it, but the 5th round, he just didn't look like he wanted to try and finish him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he even landed that awesome front kick that staggered him back, and, I just wish that he would have followed up on that, because it was just the perfect opportunity. I mean, we can be armchair quarterbacks all we want. We're not in the ring, but that one is like a sort of a gimme, right? You've got your opponent clearly like on wobbly feet in front of you, and you just watch him expecting him to fall. You say always protect yourself, but you should almost always be on the offensive too when you know your opponent's rocked. Just like, I feel like that was a theme, That's kind of what happened in the Gegard fight as well, if we want to transition to that. The Gegard fight, he was fighting really to win, and the commentating on that fight was like, oh, he doesn't have the fight, he's not looking to finish, he doesn't have the finish in his eyes, he's not looking for it. And that's kind of what happened with Silva. It was kind of like, Silva was looking to finish with the highlight walk-off KO, and, doesn't want a sloppy highlight reel, I guess, but this loss does not bode well for Silva, I don't think. Obviously, he'll be back to fight again. I don't think he's going to retire, but it's just not one of those wins for Bisping where I see him taking this as a footing to move up, and he didn't even ask for the title fight, so that just goes to show you what he thought of his performance.
His face hurts today.
Yeah, he is bloodied up, that is for sure.
Yeah, he was originally supposed to fight Musasi, right?
Was that the fight?
It wasn't
Oh
supposed to
yes,
be a main
yeah,
event,
it was
but
supposed to. Yeah, they were supposed to
hit
fight.
Mousasi.
Yeah, Mousasi. It was main event, I think, and then they switched it around. Yeah,
Well, he fought Tails already too. Bisping.
yeah.
They had fought before.
Yeah, he was. Tails' last fight was Bisping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get to that fight. Thales Leites versus Gegard Mousasi. Of course, Gegard impressive with his slowly picking apart boxing. It's just wild how good this guy is, considering he just recently went to gyms to start training properly.
Yeah.
We're looking at Mousasi. Ladies, just pouring it on Ladies. Ladies looked like his conditioning took a hit real early with all those shots that he was landing. Gegard really mixed up his assault, and it was showing. Of course, there was no finish, as I mentioned. Are the best days behind Gegard Mousasi? This is a former Dream and Strikeforce champion, and he just can't seem to please anybody, is one way to look at it. His post-fight interview kind of summed it up best, giving the bird to the fans and then saying, I got caught trying to get offensive or trying to go on the offensive against Hall, and here I am just trying to win and you're booing me. I won. Trevor, you love Gegard, so
Yeah, Gegard's a guy I've been watching consistently since 2008 at least. Really good fighter. I really like his personality also. Just kind of a funny, goofy, not much of emotion, kind of like Fedor-esque, and he's also friends with Fedor. But I actually missed the fight live, but I watched highlights today. It definitely didn't look like he was going for the finish, but also Leites is an extremely hard person to put away. Anderson Silva couldn't do it. Bisping couldn't do it. He's only been finished. I don't even know if he's been finished also. Honestly, just a really tough veteran. With the win with Mousasi, I would actually like to see him fight the winner of Derek Brunson, Uriah Hall. So there's always the chance for a rematch, which would be one that a lot of people will watch.
Yeah, I think so, man. Especially after that highlight reel from Hall with that spinning kick to the head when Mousasi was moving in for that takedown or something. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, he will live on forever in his highlight reel, that's for sure.
Mousasi was pissed in his post-fight. He wasn't talking it back. Was really going at it, talking about the fans, talking about everything, talking about Machida loss.
Yeah, I think the biggest news to come out of this fight is the Machida grease.
Yeah, something that Rockhold actually brought up too. Felt Machida was extremely greasy.
Yeah, if this is your first time hearing about the Machida cheating, greasy accusations, there's if you feel so inclined to just go to the Sherdog forums and have a look. There are some interesting before and after pictures of Machida fighting in Brazil versus fighting in America just before USADA, and it's pretty interesting. His body is pretty cut when he's fighting in Brazil, and he's looking a little flabby. Same weight in America, and there are ebbs and flows in people's diet, so can't point fingers and say unanimously that he looks like he's been cheating, but there's two fighters coming out against him, so it's pretty interesting accusations.
And quote Mousasi, greased, roided motherfucker.
Yeah, he did not hold back. He's usually very soft-spoken, but he was really all over the mic, making the most of his 10 seconds on the mic. Nick, you want to get in on this? Let us know what you think.
The Mousasi latest fight?
Yeah.
Well, I thought Mousasi actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
He was dominant for the entire fight, and in his own words, he put on a better show against Leites than Bisping did.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I actually would kind of like to see Gegard fight Anderson Silva.
That would be a great fight. Yeah.
That's a
Just
good
keep
fight.
feeding him the guys that Bisping beat, but
really.
I think that would be a great fight.
Yeah, I agree.
And it, wouldn't be
cut and dry.
Yeah,
It could be fun. Both styles match up really interestingly, especially with I thought Silva was really on point back to the old Silva of old. He didn't really look like that in the Diaz fight. I think he was really tentative in that fight. Really,
he looked pretty good
fighting reserve.
Yeah.
and I think
good,
where they
41.
both are in their careers, that matchup isn't.
No, and
it's
you know
a
what?
Possibility.
A win for Bisping over Anderson doesn't really do much for him right now. Maybe it was the way that the fight went down. Maybe it's just him in general. But if Gegard can get a win over Anderson, then I'd say he's in the title picture as well. But there's just such a stacked division there. It's hard to it's hard to look past, Yoel Romero, Jacare, Chris Weidman, the former champion. It's a great time to be a UFC fan.
I just looked up latest record there real quick too. He's been submitted once, but he's never been knocked out.
Yeah, it just shows.
It's a tough
All
fight.
his other losses were decisions.
Tough fight.
Guy, yeah.
So I mean, speaking of decisions, looking up and down the rest of the card, it was mostly decisions aside from a few KOs or TKOs in the prelims, and of course Askam's impressive KO of Dempsey. Any other fights you guys want to talk about before I move on to Bellator 150?
I have two actually I'd like to talk about.
Sure.
I've got in the prelims, highlight of the prelims, the main event of the prelims, I'll say, Americani versus Wilkinson from the UK. Wilkinson, yeah. This fight, Wilkinson actually, last time he fought, he had knocked out Backstrom, Swedish prospect. He was not supposed to win that fight, KO'd in the first. So I was actually looking, maybe he'd be able to stop another prospect in Americani. Americani showed he had a really great wrestling, good ground game. First time going over 3 rounds. Great wrestling. But Wilkinson, at the end of the first, he actually had him in a crazy arm lock all of a sudden. A la, Pete Williams versus Frank Mir. I thought he almost had him. He had his reefing with one arm.
Through his legs, right?
He just had his...
Oh, yeah, no, that was a different fight.
Yeah, it was crazy. So, Wilkinson, he'll be back. Americani shows that he can go longer than 2 minutes like his other fights were, and one was 8 seconds. But the other fight I want to talk about is Pickett versus Rivera.
Yeah,
Pickett's always been a fun guy since his WEC days. Just really fun action fighter straight from video games. And Rivera's also a great fighter. He was picking Faber apart before the eye poke. So that fight was awesome. Really back forth, using every aspect of MMA, and I don't think either get a loss from that. They're both winners. Pickett especially is the winner because he was actually going to retire with a loss. So with that split decision, must have been his heart must have been racing when they called for Rivera. But yep, great fights. Those were really, really awesome. Askren, of course, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
with the awesome KO and domination the entire time.
Yeah, that grazing punch off of Dempsey's head made him do the little drunk dance, and he
Ric
just
Flair.
couldn't find his footing. And Askin with that amazing sniper kick. Oh, it was Dempsey's falling, so there's really no predictable path, and he's right at the crescendo of his dip on there when he looks like he's falling over. He's just about to get Dempsey is just about to get his legs under him, and Askin just fucking shin to chin, knocks him right out. Sucks. I had Dempsey as my parlay, so this is why we don't bet on fights.
That was Askham's third head kick KO.
I'm kicking myself for betting against him. I was just out of money on my parlay, so I had to choose someone cheap, and I just thought maybe Dempsey would wrestle him to the win or something. But
not the most
decisions were made.
Not the most exciting fight, but Tom Breeze, Keaton Nakamura. Breeze is 10-0 now.
Yeah, undefeated.
Still undefeated. That was his first decision win, though.
Against a veteran, too.
Which is, that's the reason I brought it up, was because every time we're watching someone who never goes to decision, always wins, super quick, first round.
Yeah.
It always seems like we're excited for that fight, and then it goes to decision for the first time ever.
Like Americani.
Always the case. Yeah, Americani as well.
Americani,
Yeah. I mean, he was known for his wrestling pedigree anyways, going into that Sweden fight. So really, that knockout, as impressive as it was really just not representative of his actual fighting style.
Yeah.
So it's kind of great to get that knockout on your highlight reel, obviously, so you can always play that to promote your fights. But I'm not expecting that from every fight from him. Yeah.
Yeah, that Tom Breeze fight, though. Yeah, he fought a Keita Nakamura. He's a veteran. So
Yeah.
Just shows, you can, not of the first round, but he went to decision with a veteran. That shows he's crafty and he can beat somebody that's really good at his craft already. So
he's undefeated. So
yeah,
big guy too. He's huge.
He's not going anywhere. Clearly,
no one's gonna ask who his 10th win was when he's 17-0.
He's a big guy. For that.
Oh yeah, he looked huge. Speaking of huge, Bellator 150. Shall we chat about that? Bellator 150, huge Czech Congo in the main event after Galvao gets sick and pulls out with a few days left. Galvao versus Dantes 2, of course, didn't materialize like we expected. We were really looking forward to that. I'm hoping that they did mention that they can reschedule Galvao versus Dantes within the next month or two.
Awesome.
Yeah, I really want to see that fight. But we were blessed with Czech Congo versus Spartan. Of course, Congo, not known for his exciting fighting style here of late, but he improves to 24-10-2 with a otherwise uneventful split decision. Really nothing to write home about until the third, when Czech gets, Spartan gets a good punch in and Czech gets rocked, but Spartan unable to capitalize on the rocked Czech, and they fall to the ground and they get stood up with 10 seconds left, and then it's the end of the fight. Pretty underwhelming main event. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that. We can pretty much jump down to the co-main if you guys are fine with it.
Yeah, underwhelming is definitely the word to put it.
Yeah, there's a reason Czech wasn't the main event anyways, you know what I'm saying?
My notes for that fight just say split decision.
I put an alright fight. That's, that would be a little nice, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Czech Congo, he's 42, was it now? So, I mean, you're looking at the difference between Czech Congo, of course he's fighting at heavyweight, and Anderson Silva, same age, and just the vast chasm between them as far as skill sets concerned.
Yeah.
But I mean, Anderson's always been the GOAT, so. Anyways, let's not double dip here and confuse our listeners. Let's stick to Bellator. Co-main event: David Rickles versus Bobby Cooper. David Rickles. These guys definitely did not waste their time finding their range. I mean, let's speak to those. Let's speak to the fight, and then we'll talk about Bellator's promotion with David Rickles, because I feel like he's one of their stars. Obviously, he's made his name in Bellator, and he's continues to impress with this win over Bobby Cooper. Ruled a TKO first round. Due to knees and punches. Both came to bang, and Rickles showing his strengths, really just embarrassing Bobby Cooper once he got to the ground. Well, I guess it didn't really, it was ground and pound. It wasn't like it was grappling or anything. Nick, jump in. What do you think?
Well, I thought, throughout the fight, Cooper seemed like he was actually winning, and he dropped Rickles once.
Yeah.
There were, a few just crazy flurries in there. And once Rickles dropped him, he just went for it.
He smelled blood.
Yeah, brutal finish. Very impressive.
Yeah, just to double dip, it would be great if we saw Musashi and Silva with that same want to finish. If they would have followed up any of their attacks with that same flurry, then they would have won. That's one impressive thing about David Rickles. He's always coming to bang. I love him, and I guess that kind of plays into his Flintstone style. The caveman walk. Bang bang.
That was cool.
Yeah,
I really like that.
It was cool.
That carnival, entertainment.
The walkout.
Yeah, that they bring in.
Yeah, I know.
I
they
really
always
appreciate that.
They always show it in his highlight reels, his walkout when he had the dinosaur and when he had the car behind him and everything. I feel like they're kind of reeling back his walkouts, but he even had the club this time, and they didn't even give Dada a sledgehammer, so he's got to be one of their stars. But I just want to allude. The reason I talk about Bellator's promotion and specifically David Rickles' walkout is because we have a very, very fair weather casual fan who comes out to watch fights with us. His name's Nick, not to be confused with our Nick Brown here on set, but Nick made a comment during the walkout and after the fight. He said, "I like Bellator, maybe even more than UFC. Everything seems so relaxed. It's much more approachable than UFC." So we want to talk about promotion-wise and, what's going to get eyeballs, alluding to Jimmy Smith's comments on MMA Hour last year, which we spoke of last podcast. Vote with your eyes, and if we see more people with the mentality that Nick has, that it's more approachable, and of course it's free
on Spike.
Free on Spike, so it is already approachable by with that in mind. But what do you guys think? Do you think UFC should maybe consider letting people walk out with their? They're homogenizing the product right now with the uniforms, but we're seeing a few people able to do it, like Brad Pickett last night with his hat. And I think there's going to be a little room to bend once Reebok starts customizing their walkout gear and everything. And I think Nick's onto something, and I think the casual insight is actually a little bit less biased than our insight. So what do you say to
that's for sure, because it's like very fresh mind.
Yeah.
Into somebody that watches like maybe once, twice a month, if that. Not like us that watch every weekend.
Yeah.
But I see, it's cool that they do let, like Pickett have the hat and everything, but, it's gotta be kind of sad that you're not gonna see everybody, like Tahuna. James Tahuna a couple years ago came out as a Man in Black.
Yeah.
And they showed it was really awesome. They
ripped off his suit.
Yeah, they had this like synchronized dance. Really cool. Like, why not show a little bit of personality and have some fun with it, right? Same with the music.
Yeah.
Which sometimes they can't use certain music, but Bellator is really cool like that. They do have the leniency on doing certain things. And
it's like
it really
UFC's younger, cooler cousin.
Yeah, well, when Nick said that, I even caught that. I was like, wow, that's it was really cool that he actually gave that insight.
Yeah,
it's really nice having that casual fan perspective in general.
Yeah. So speaking about casual fans, Nick.
I want to see some like Mean Gene style interviews before the fights. I thought.
Yes, they need to get Mean Gene in here. That's what's missing from the product. Every
What's
product.
What's his last name again?
Okerlund, yeah. Mean Gene Okerlund, yeah. Oh man, I really, I took all those interviews backstage and all of the WWE or WWF at the time and WCW interviewers for granted. I think because everything's so homogenized now
that was the best part of it.
Yeah, exactly. I guess subconsciously it was getting me pumped.
Watch like some Roddy Piper interviews. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, They know they're about to walk out and get knocked out, but
yeah, they know what's coming. But either way,
yeah. So let's actually let's move forward to another knockout on the card. Kendall Grove versus Francisco France. Funny name. Grove finding his second win late in his career. Second by knockout in his career. Second in a row by knockout. You're always stoked on Kendall Grove. We were really questioning the Bellator signing when it happened, but I think it's really working out for him.
Yeah, he's a fighter that always brings it. Even in his losses in UFC back in the day. He's got this like kind of demeanor to him. He's like this huge 6'6" Hawaiian that kind of just has like a menacing look. But I've always haven't been the biggest fan of him over the years. But he definitely, every time he fights, I really want to watch it because either he's getting finished or he's finishing somebody, it seems.
Yeah. 16 wins by submission, 2 by knockout now.
And that KO was awesome, especially after, he was losing the first round. He was really getting hit with leg kicks. And he was limping there at the first.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, I thought this was going to be another, leg kick finish like last weekend. But Grove brought it in, big overhand right, and another run, another one, then ground and pound. He was stiffened out cold.
Yeah.
He looked like he was already on a stretcher, imaginary stretcher.
Oh my god, that was wild. Of course, Francisco France coming in there as a late replacement. So,
yes.
I mean, it's a little bit questionable how ready Francisco was, but he brought it in the first, so he definitely had the cardio to go hard for as long as it needed. But definitely getting messed up by Grove.
Yeah.
Nick, what do you think? Not much to add.
No, not really. Grove had a great finish.
Yeah. I mean, looking up and down that card, a couple decisions on that card as well, but overall, just some pretty good fights. Remember, there was a really good female fight earlier in the night.
I missed that one.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, the girl I said kind of looked like
the crazy blonde hair. Yeah, she was a machine.
Yeah,
I wish I could think of her name.
Crazy, right?
Sorry, I didn't make any notes. If you're listening,
right,
my apologies.
Straight.
I got here just when that fight had ended, and they looked like they had been in a war.
Oh, she kept landing the straight right.
Yeah, she got cut up. Her face hurt a little bit. Anything else you want to talk about Bellator 150? Galbao versus Dantes.
Yeah, it was a decent card. It wasn't anything that was, I'm not going to be talking about that card probably next weekend even. Yeah. But it's still Bellator is consistent, just like UFC. There seems to be a Bellator almost every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, if they have one every weekend, and we're going 151, 152, 153, they're about to have Bellator 200 about the same time UFC has UFC 200.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the game plan,
really
so they can get a little brand confusion and get people to tune in and think
Bellator
they watch
200.
Yeah, they think they watch UFC
it's
200.
free on Spike, 200.
Yeah, hey, you never know. That they are definitely pouring it on. There's a lot of great cards coming up for Bellator, which they really highlighted during that that show.
Yeah, and the kickboxing coming up.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really looking forward to all of it.
Yeah, I mean, before we move into our segments too, speaking of kickboxing, can we just have a moment for the main event of Glory 27? Simon Marcus fighting out of Toronto by way of Jamaica, fighting against Artem Levin for the title, and
the guys hate each other.
Oh yeah, a lot of shit talking going into this fight, and my apologies that we're talking about kickboxing in an MMA show, but if you haven't seen this, it's the most bizarre fight. It was almost on the same level of bizarreness as the SIlva Bisping fight, where Artem is, like in kickboxing, you're not allowed to clinch. If you're new to kickboxing, it seems a little confusing while you're watching it, but it does keep the action going nice and quick-paced. But a lot of people try to get away with it as much as possible. And these guys, last time they fought, there was last time Levin fought, he was accused of clinching a lot as well. So, Levin going into this fight with a little bit of a he's known for clinching a little longer, and he feels that the ref, he feels the ref was biased and called because in the first round, Artem Levin gets docked a point for clinching in the first round with really very few warnings.
3
One
minutes
warning.
long.
Yeah, 3 minutes long, exactly. And then so he loses that round 10-8 because Marcus really brought it in the first. And then second round, I think it was just back and forth, but it was the third. Yeah, he tripped him through the ropes.
8 count.
Yeah, and then he gets the 8 count. Yeah, and then in the third, he gets docked another point for holding. And after the first one, he tries to wave off Marcus, and Marcus attacks and finishes the round. But after the second time he was deducted points, he just puts his hands up, waves it off, yells like some Russian swear word to the ref, and later on there's an interview with his cornerman, and the cornerman is accusing the commission of being in cahoots with the referee and being biased towards him. So I mean, some pretty heavy accusations.
That referee's been going through a lot of shit lately.
Yeah. Reminiscent of Silva's comments about the commission. So just a really strange title defense, and real bad mojo that his title reign comes to an end like that.
I think he's gonna be out of Glory. He's been thinking about going to other promotions. So
yeah,
there's another one in China, Kunlun, I believe. It's a new kickboxing promotion that's starting, and a lot of people have been looking into going there from Glory and other kickboxing organizations.
Yeah, well, I mean, Glory losing some steam, getting cut from Spike, now just on Fight Pass. Not live, though. That's still being streamed, I believe, by NBC or something like this. So it's an interesting time for Glory, and if you have accusations coming out like that from your champions, it's kind of a rough time for Glory.
Andy Risky, one of their biggest stars, is thinking actually we're going to fight in China, too.
Yeah.
So it's like, ooh,
Anyways, thank you for humoring our little veer off of the main course to talk about the craziness that was Glory 27. Let's move on to our segments, shall we? Our first segment. The half-cut uppercut. All right, Nick, why don't you let us know your half-cut uppercut. Who impressed you the most? Who was the dark horse of the weekend, the entire weekend, Bellator 150, and UFC Fight Night, or any other promotion that you may have caught?
My half-cut uppercut was Teemu Packalén.
And why?
Well, he finished the fight in 24 seconds.
Oh, yes.
Impressive finish. Rocked him with a straight left. Dropped him with a right uppercut. Just ground and pounded him for a minute, jumped on his back, and he tapped right away. Yeah. Well, not a minute, I guess.
I had to.
Yeah.
Slick burn.
A few seconds.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely making the most of his time in the octagon.
I got Scott Askham. He was awesome the whole fight, really owning the whole entire thing, honestly, and could have probably went to a decision if he wanted to, but boom, goes with the big right hand, I believe it was.
Yeah, his right hand,
stumbling,
off the side of his head.
Back in, he's in Wonderland there, and
oh man, watching him dance,
Alice in Wonderland,
knocked out is hilarious.
And then boom, shin to shin, like from Rodney earlier.
Oh, it's wild.
Also, there was a guy in the first fight of the night. I think his name was Tempura. Not tempura, but
love tempura.
Yeah, me too. But he won the fight via uppercut. I forget his name, but that People have been really raving about that guy.
Sweet.
Prospect, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure I caught that. We were a little
David
late.
Tamer?
Tamer, yeah, not tempura. You know what's on my mind.
It's gonna get sushi
Asian
soon.
food.
Yeah. Well, my half-cut uppercut goes to Brad Pickett, and
nice one.
going into that fight, fighting 15th place Rivera, much bigger man than Pickett. Pickett always known for his punt knockout, and the instant he can turn around, knock someone out. One punch Pickett. There's a reason that's his nickname. But he was getting chewed up by Rivera in that first round. He found a way back into it with kicks, and Rivera even was heard between the second and the third round saying, "My legs are done." He couldn't keep going on, but he did. And he won the split decision at home. He was ready to retire. He said he was battling demons, and he's going to move on to fight another day. And, he's just saying, I'm going to support my family, provide for my family. He's got 2 kids, I believe. And, it really highlighted the everyman struggle. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got, on one level, people making millions of dollars in the main event. This guy's on the undercard and just barely making enough to support his family, but already ready to retire, just given the forecast on his career. I thought it was a great moment in UFC and in mixed martial arts as a whole.
He's been fighting for years too, and he's still not making the big dollars.
Exactly, fighting for years and still the underdog going into these fights. It was just a Hollywood moment, I thought, and I could not resist but make Brad Pickett my half-cut uppercut.
Nice. I actually was thinking about that too, because he's been in, like you say, with Demons, he's been roller coaster ride since being in UFC, since the merger with WC. But it's great to see him win. Rivera, I believe he's going to keep going.
Oh, absolutely,
Going to keep going. Yeah, he's a great fighter.
All right, with that, we'll move on to our second segment. The full bladder splatter. All right, Nick, who do you got for our full bladder splatter? Who pissed the bed the worst this weekend?
I'm going to give the full bladder splatter to Bobby Cooper. I thought he was looking really good for the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds or so against David Rickles. And then those last 19 seconds just went to shit.
That's true.
So he looked like he was going to win it, and then
surprise. Yeah, cannot underestimate David Rickles. Yeah, Greg, who do you have? Your full bladder splatter.
This one was easy for me. You're doing a lot of fouls when the referee wants to fight you. All right, so I got Marilyn Vera.
Oh, yeah.
From Ecuador, who I don't even think probably speaks English. Yeah. So, you got this British referee, saying, hands off the cage, don't grab the gloves. There was so many. Okay, there's 5 to 6 fouls, and he just didn't look good on top of it. He was just getting, pummeled all over the place. He went for some submission attempts, but you know what? If you're a submission artist, you're definitely going to go for submission attempts, but he didn't even get close to finishing.
Yeah.
Ref Goddard, it seemed like he wanted to fight him. He even talked to him afterwards. Vera looked like he was in a daze, didn't know what the hell's going on every time he talked to him, but still, Vera doesn't seem like he's really UFC quality, per se. But, why didn't they take more points away?
Yeah.
There was, I believe, one, which is interesting. They took the one while they didn't stop the fight. It was kind of nice. He was on the bottom grabbing the glove, and they took the point off then. They didn't have any pause in the action.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, they didn't pause the action, which...
Maybe they should have, because I didn't even notice.
They took one in the second round.
I thought that was a really really good insight from the commentators as well, to mention that he was grabbing the gloves because he trains with a gi.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
okay,
he's training with a gi. He's got those handles on the cuffs of his opponents to grab at. He's used to using that to leverage his attacks. Just another note about Vera. I thought it was interesting. While he was walking out, the commentators mentioned that his daughter had a rare condition where she is unable to make facial expressions.
Really?
They didn't name this condition, but man,
the muscles must just no twitch. There's no muscle.
Yeah, and I don't know how much Vera's making to show or to win, but
probably about $2,000.
Yeah, they were saying he's looking to get some money for her surgery and to put money down on a house for his family. I'm thinking, holy Christ, $10,000 goes a long way, I guess.
Sorry, Marilyn Vera.
Yeah, it really sucks.
I kind of feel bad for putting in the bladder splatter. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, you are are a heartless bastard. Yeah. Okay, my full bladder.
Definitely too.
Yeah, really. Once again, I had a hard time picking my full bladder splatter. But I'm going to go with my initial selection because it actually rolls into the one that's tied. So on this night we had my full bladder splatter goes to Anderson Silva and Gegard Mousasi for not bringing the finishing mentality. I think that these guys are so far in their careers that they should know by now that they can even fake the flurry and still walk away with the ref roll coming in. They should know. They should have that cage awareness. But Anderson Silva, selecting him for my full bladder splatter actually leads right into this. The UK judges. All right.
Yeah.
Can we have a moment?
My first choice as well.
Well, that's just it, man. It's very strange. Well, it's not even strange. It's expected, but I don't think we should be expecting it. Like Brad Pickett, I'm happy he won, but he won that split in a hometown, and it was a very controversial split. And then Anderson, of course, like you can call that a robbery if you wanted to, just the way that you're watching the fight. But that's. It's only a robbery for me because it was and I had Bisping to win because it was a unanimous decision. It wasn't a split. Everyone had it across the board for Bisping. But I guess maybe I just need to rewatch it again with no sound or something. But yeah, that's when you think about that, and then you think about Diego Sanchez winning at home, and about that Rob Pearson fight. Hometown advantage should not even be a thing. These judges, full bladder splatter on my end. So let's look forward to the next week of MMA, and oh my God, like I mentioned, like I alluded to earlier, where we have all these promos going on during the shows for Bellator and for UFC. We have a spoil of riches on our hands here, fellas. Like, it is just a great time to be an MMA fan. So yeah, let's look forward to the two cards worth noting, and then we'll move on to our third section: predictions. Yeah. So let's start with UFC 196. We've got McGregor versus Diaz at the top of the card, and then we've got Holly Holm versus Miesha Tate. Can we just talk about having the most anticipated fights finally happening? I was pretty stoked for Dos Anjos versus McGregor, but ever since Diaz lit up the mic after his last win,
which we talked about,
which we were lucky enough to hear the uncensored version live. I think that's the real money fight. I think Diaz was onto something. Dos Anjos, love his fighting style, had him to win against McGregor. Looking at the fight, McGregor is a huge favorite to win. You can put $10 down or $100 down, on Diaz and walk away with $370 in your pocket, which I am considering. Because Diaz really brings it. I think this fight all comes down to one thing: who lands the first Stockton bitch slap.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about these two guys too is I'm pretty sure there's a lot of respect between the two in general.
Yeah, you can see it, especially in that bananas press conference.
They definitely, because the Diaz brothers have been around for a long time, and Conor probably most likely grew up watching those guys go at it, fight, and you can tell he has that kind of that same style, very soft, outspoken, just like the Diaz brothers have been for years, and
only he says it in more words.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way that Conor didn't study the Diaz brothers to get to where he's at now, as far as shit talking and owning the public, pulling at the public's public conscious.
Yep. Oh, totally.
That can we just have a moment for that press conference? Yeah. If you were to try to watch that with it beeped, I don't think you could.
No.
There's just something I found about the press conference. McGregor actually looked very uncomfortable at one point when he was talking about Diaz, helping kids on Sundays with their jiu-jitsu and training, and he was just implying, that he's poor and he has to do other side jobs, but still it was just so distasteful. It's why is that a bad thing? You're helping the community, being aka fake gangster, but still it was just, he was trying to get to this balloon analogy, but even everybody there, it seemed like it was kind of went on for forever, and then it was just
yeah, I felt
that
a
was kind
flat.
of distasteful. It was in general, it was not even that bad of a burn. It was just more man, you're not gonna do that too, McGregor? You're not gonna help out the young and up and comers, even kids or anything? Like
it was an awkward burn.
He's
for sure.
helping out the poor. He made Diaz a millionaire.
Yeah, like
touche.
Everything's just money now. Money this, money that. It's
yeah,
like, it's just
well, people. I do appreciate that sentiment. I would advise you to have a look at the Chuck Mindenhall article where he really does pick apart Conor on a few different levels. Of course, he does touch on his pre-game antics, but he also talks about how humble he is once he's in the cage. When he can actually speak from the heart. Because I think what he's so good at being the promotion, we eat that up and we take it as gospel truth. Like, we think that's actually, like, we're talking about it like he's actually the asshole. When we take a step back if he wins or loses, and we're like, oh, okay, it was just all for promotion.
Well,
definitely.
Yeah, and he couldn't even help but try to also say nice things about Diaz. So
I think he respects him, man. You're
does.
right. He
Definitely respects him.
Yeah, and even with that awkward burn, it still resulted in one of the best pictures I've seen floating around on Twitter with Nick Diaz dressed as a ninja, and it says ninja shit, and he's got a katana in one hand and a balloon animal in the other. So
good. So good.
At the very least, we have that. Somewhat overshadowed in this whole card, of course, Miesha Tate versus Holly.
Awesome fight. Only recently have I really got into female MMA. Like, for the longest time, it was kind of like, oh, sweet, I'll watch it, but I'm not following it as much. I don't know. This fight, though, is going to be action-packed.
Yeah.
Action-packed. Miesha always brings it. And so is Holly from, what we saw the last time against Rousey.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the best case scenario for Miesha Tate. I mean, after all of that bullshit where she was promised the title and then it was taken away and given to Holly Holm. Sure, she was sour then, but that's probably the best thing that could have happened for Miesha Tate.
Yeah,
it's probably something that UFC saw as an opportunity.
She's got 4 or 5 wins since her fight with Ronda.
Yeah.
So
she's only, I think she's like 5-6-2 or something like that.
Really,
in the UFC, like it's.
Yeah, I've been watching her on Instagram, and she's been training so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, her boyfriend's also a UFC fighter, so
Holly Holm's only 2 fights away from having the same record that Ronda had when she lost.
That's a good point, man. I didn't even think
she's
of that.
She's 10-0 right now.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So.
Yeah, when they were showing the breakdown of that division, that weight division last night during the UFC stream on Fight Pass, that is such a stacked division. It is wild. It would be so hard to make inroads in that top 10 right now.
Oh yeah, it's I don't know, like so many. I find all of the women's divisions just so many crazy fighters in there. They're all going for it because it's just.
Well, it's a land of unknowns outside of the top 5, and I mean, it's sure we know the top 5, but if you were to ask anybody who like the top 5 was, meant like a casual fan, they'd say Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm, if they know Holly Holm,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a
spoiler.
spoiler.
That beat.
I mean,
yeah.
There's been women's MMA fights for a long time, but it never really came to the forefront until it was in UFC.
Yeah,
and just. There's so many women out there that just want it so bad, and they're all bringing the fight.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if they're single moms, single dads, there's people of all kinds of stripes that are just looking to assert themselves in the fight game. But let's just look down this card. We got the return of Brendan Thatch. We've got Ilir Latifi after his impressive,
making a huge return. He hasn't fought in forever.
Against Brendan Thatch, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sair's coming back from, like, a huge layoff.
Fighting out of Afghanistan, I believe. Yes.
Awesome fighter. Speaking of action fighters, that guy's insane.
And Thatch will definitely look to stand and brawl, so... Unless he's going for submissions, who knows?
Sair's really good on the ground, too, though. It's like... It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I think they're doing that's a smart idea, keeping that on the main card and putting it so high up so high.
Yeah, that was removed from the last card, I believe. It was on the prelims. And there was 2 fights that were canceled. Not canceled, but rebooked for this fight card.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I must have missed that news blurb. Cool, yeah, and of course Ilir Latifi coming in again off of that crazy knockout in Boston, which I was there live to see.
Speaking of guys who have short fights.
Yeah. You know, he's fighting the Strikeforce guy, the Guillaume
Vellante.
That's got to be a crazy fight. When it got announced, I messaged you guys. I was like, oh my god, this just got announced. Like,
yeah, and we've got Amanda Nunes fighting Valencia. I can't say her name. Shevchenko. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Shevchenko fight, but Nunes pretty much brings it in her fights, so pretty excited for that. Eric Silva, of course, his return. He's further down on the on the card against Nordin Taleb. That's going to be a fun fight.
This next fight's going to be great.
We've got Corey Anderson against Filthy Tom Lawler.
Thing is, Tom Lawler knocked out Gene last time, so it's kind of funny. He's fighting underneath.
Yeah,
but he's he's back at 205 since he KO'd Vellante at 205, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do now that he's second fight at 205 now.
Yeah, and opening up the card, we've got Darren Elkins. Like, oh my god, that is that is a lot of fights on a main card. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for a pay-per-view. Pretty crazy, and that doesn't even talk about the prelims.
The header for the prelims is big.
Oh, the main event, the main event of the prelims. We got Jim Miller against Diego Sanchez. Like, if that's not a barn burner, I don't know what's going to be. That's just going to be out of this world. Yeah, lots to look forward to in UFC 196. They really stacked this card. I know they're going to have a lot of eyeballs, so they're making the most of it. Guys, let's take a look at Bellator 151. We got Darian Caldwell versus Joe Warren in the main event. Joe Warren coming off a pretty salty loss in his last outing. I believe he lit up the mic and basically cussed out the crowd and everybody involved. Darian Caldwell looking good of late. Oh, wait, guys, we forgot our predictions. UFC 196. Predictions. Yes, let's open it up. Predictions. All right, UFC 196. Who do we got in the main event? McGregor versus Diaz. Nick.
I want Diaz to win, but I feel like McGregor might take it. I could just see Diaz doing something stupid, dropping his hands and taunting McGregor. McGregor's timing's just way too good. Like I said, I'd like to see Diaz win it. Diaz is definitely going to bring the fight. He's probably going to get on it in a fight on his way to the fight, so
what about you?
It won't be a fight though. That one's just for McGregor.
Yeah, it won't be. We're just going to fight.
I really want Diaz to get this. Actually, I think his length and his height and reach and his experience is going to play a role in this. I mean, he hasn't been training this long, but those guys are always training, the Diaz brothers. So
yeah,
I believe. If this is what I envision, I can see McGregor winning. This is all just from the heart. What I'm talking about right now. I see him taunting for one, and picking apart on the feet like he did the Michael Johnson last time, which was so impressive. Mm-hmm. And then getting a submission actually in the second, because his ground game is slick, so slick.
I hope
McGregor has showed on the ground, like against Mendes.
Yeah,
that there's.
I think we're going to get a cowboy-style submission out of Diaz from his last fight against the other cowboy. I think that Diaz, like you say, is going to pick him apart. I think there's going to be some great movement by Conor, but I think Diaz is just going to take every shot that Conor gives him.
To the body.
Yeah, and I think that Diaz is going to outclass McGregor on the ground. I think it's going to go to the ground, and I do see a second or third round submission from Diaz, and I think it's probably going to be something in the upper body.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If they go to the ground, Diaz for sure. But
that's an interesting fight. Holy crap!
It is. It's a really interesting fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm going to do is probably parlay Diaz with Thatch and maybe Darren Elkins, and just hope to God that everybody. Because I mean, I think Elkins going into that fight's clearly the favorite, and I mean, going up the card, Thatch against Ilya, I'm just hoping Thatch will get that win, but. I don't know. I want to stay away from Holly Holm, Miesha Tate, because I think that's a lot tighter than anybody's given it credit for. I think that's really flying under the radar. Who do we have to win in this fight, Trevor?
I've actually got, let's see, I wrote down, would be very competitive, but I see Holly either getting the decision or late stoppage, either 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
After a lot of wear and tear from both fighters. It's going to be a bloodbath, I believe.
I've got Holm for the win by decision as well. I think that Holm has really proven herself to be a decision machine before Ronda. I think Robin Black alluded to it the best by saying it was all just a bunch of dress rehearsals for before the big show, and now she's arrived, and I don't think she's going to be as ferocious now that she has the belt. I think she's going to be fighting to. I think she's going to be fighting to retain the belt. I think Tate's going to give it her all. She's a real tough woman, but I just don't think in the end it's actually going to go Tate's way. I think Holm already has the decision figured out, and I think it's going to be decision Tate. What do you got, Nick?
Yeah, I got Holly Holm for this one too. I don't know. I'd almost like to see Miesha Tate win, but
yeah. I mean, I would love to see Miesha Tate win as well. That would be great.
Got nothing against Holly Holm either, though. It's just
there goes. He's getting
bottles.
so excited. He doesn't care enough that he's throwing bottles everywhere. Yeah, MMA.
Yes. I mean, I'm not going to be disappointed either way, but I think Holly Holm's going to take it.
Yeah. All right. Yep. So there we go. We've got 2 Diaz, 1 McGregor, and we've got 3 Holmes. But yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, Bellator 151 also happening actually the night before on Friday, March 4th, and we've got Darian Caldwell versus Joe Warren in the main event. Like I mentioned, Joe Warren, salty loss, super pissed with the crowd, swearing to everybody, and Darian Caldwell, of course, as I mentioned, looking good. I don't really know what to say about the co-main event. Gilbert Smith showing up on the Bellator page, like website, without a avatar photo against Fernando Gonzalez. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about Fernando Gonzalez or Gilbert Smith to make a accurate prediction. But I mean, looking at that main event and down the card,
double KO.
Yeah, really. Double KO. Could you imagine if that actually happened? In the main event. But yeah, I mean, I think Joe Warren's the favorite going in here, but Darren Caldwell's sitting undefeated in 8-0, so I'm going to give the win to Darren Caldwell. I think that Joe Warren, despite having lost his last fight, I just think that... he won his last fight, sorry. But he had that salty loss before that. I think that...
Lost the belt before that.
Yeah, he lost the belt. Yeah, that's what it was. Sorry for my mistake. But I think that... I just don't think Joe Warren has what it takes to beat the younger, more agile Darren Caldwell. And then, looking down the card, Gilbert Smith, Fernando Gonzalez. Do you guys want to jump in on that main event? Darren Caldwell, Joe Warren?
I'm actually going for Warren. I've been watching him since the Dream days. Seems like a cool guy, other than the weird, baddest man on the planet.
That's
other
true.
than that, I find him funny. He
true.
actually got disqualified from the Olympics in Beijing for weed.
He actually tested positive, didn't he, after another fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm not hosting. I don't have anything against him. I just think Darren Caldwell's going to beat him.
Yeah, I'd like to see Darren Caldwell keep his O.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, it'd be cool. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we got Bubba Jenkins also on the main card.
Bubba Jenkins, wasn't he from? Yeah, he's like a pro. He was a pro wrestler, not pro wrestler, but really good wrestler, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I do believe he is a wrestling... Yeah, he comes from a wrestling pedigree.
Or, for some reason, hockey, I thought, for some reason. I don't know. It was something. It was like...
Nick's on it. But yeah, let's look down the rest of the card. Just a lot of people coming up without avatars. It's just kind of one of those...
TBA versus TBA.
Yeah, I mean, no promotion is immune to the injury bug, but I don't think that's the case. I think we have a lot of... this is what we alluded to before. These names that we're seeing down the card, we don't know them right now, but this is sort of a la Strikeforce, where they have these up-and-coming people that they want to show on the card. There's a reason these people are on the main card. They're live for free on Spike, so they want eyeballs on them.
Yeah, he was a college wrestler.
Yes,
yeah. Huge prospect in college, yeah.
So that sums up our third segment, predictions. And and so now we're going to move into that part of the podcast where we discuss how the beers have been treating us. I guess in this instance we've got three different beers and a cider. Trevor, how's that cider? The Fireside Cider from Red Rover, based out of Fredericton, New Brunswick.
I was saying beforehand how, I'm probably going to feel a good buzz by the middle of this podcast. And I can say now that I definitely do. I'm actually at the bottom of the barrel.
Of the wine bottle.
Of the wine bottle, basically, of cider beer. And my face is toasty. My feet are a little little numb. Happy. It's a good weekend, good fights, everything. I highly recommend this cider, especially this time of the year. You know, it's cold and chilly right now. And
it has a nice little bite to it. I just want to go around the label here and mention what awards it's won. We've got the Canadian Brewing Awards Gold Medal in 2015. We've got the Atlantic Canadian Beer Awards Gold Medal, and then we've got Cidery of the Year as well from the the Atlantic Canadian Beer Awards. So looking at a real gem out of Fredericton, New Brunswick here.
Delicious.
I'm not usually a cider guy, and I've had a couple bottles of it, and I quite enjoy it as well.
I agree. Yeah, I did try their spring cider. It tasted like it was a little bit more on the green side. Kind of has like a little bit of a
zing.
Well, more like a vegetable taste with cider. Like where the fire cider has like a little bit of spice to it, and then they've got the winter cider, which is a little bit more hearty. Tastes very much like an apple. The other one sort of tastes a bit green. You know, like a wet hopped kind of beer. Yeah. What about you? How are those hop cities treating you?
I'm on my third one now, so pretty good.
Yeah, you're a fiend for those, man. I think you just have a crush on that robot on the label.
You know what? I didn't like that the first time I had it, but nowadays,
yeah,
I really dig it.
I do too, yeah. I mean, my first couple times drinking it was kind of at a necessity. I showed up to a bar across the street from work for a little liquid lunch beer, or little liquid lunch over lunch, and I wanted an IPA on tap, and all they had was this, and I gotta say, on tap, it's a pretty good beer. Definitely not my go-to, but it is a decent beer. I've bought a 6-pack every now and then. I keep them in the fridge, call them easy sippers. And they're great to have on tap.
Definitely one of my go-tos. Mm-hmm. Hot pot's good stuff.
So while we were recording this podcast, as I mentioned before, I'm drinking a Petit Saut. I was drinking a Pilsner, and I finished it. I gotta say, tasted just as good on the final sip as it did on the end. Definitely highly recommend checking out Petit Saut if you have the ability. I think it's in limited release across New Brunswick, so if you get a chance, look for those little stubby bottles with the funny drawings on them. I did move into the Amber Ale. Must say, it's a lot hoppier than I expected. It's tastes more like an American Pale Ale versus an IPA. Their IPA, as I mentioned before, the Sister Catherine's very bitter, but this I think this is kind of like the IPA taste you would expect from an American Pale Ale. It's got a 27 rating and it's an IBU, and I'd say that they make the most of their hops there. Highly recommended. I'll be drinking it again for sure. And at $2.50 for a bottle, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nope,
not bad at
all. Guys. Looking forward next week, as we mentioned, we got 2 big events. After that, we're going to the Fredericton Craft Beer Festival, where all the beers we just mentioned will be on tap. We're going to be coming to you with a beer exclusive episode after that. But before that, next week, we're going to bring you one other MMA-oriented podcast, and we're going to be, as I mentioned, talking about the Diaz MacGregor Holm Tate.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And
we could have done a whole podcast just about Diaz and McGregor.
And we might. Depending how the fight goes, man. The SIlva Bisping fight was enough that we probably could have spoke about that at length too, but in the interest of keeping this under 4 hours, Joe Rogan experience, we're gonna not talk about it at length, but we will be back next week, as I mentioned. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. We are MMA Buzz Radio. We want to hear from you. We're appreciating all the feedback. Very happy to hear from our fans. Keep it coming, guys. And as I mentioned, we are going to be bringing you a video feed soon, so get excited.
Yeah.
Boys, I think that's it. Shall we cheers? Episode 9 in the books.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
MMA Buzz. Brought to you by The Beach Radio.